Have you ever wondered how you can draw realistic hair with color pencils? Then this video is just right for you because that's what I'm going to be doing. My name is Russo Scherr, and here are some of my tips and tricks for how to draw realistic hair. I'll go through each of them in this video, but first make sure you have the right materials: smooth drawing paper, good color pencils, and a regular pencil. It's good to start off with some research, so you understand what you want to draw. It doesn't mean you have to copy that photo directly, but it's good to understand what you're drawing so you're not drawing just from your imagination. Once you've found your reference photo, consider where your light source is, where the highlight hits the hair, where the deep shadow creates darker values, and the overall mid-tone or the general color of the hair. Begin by sketching super lightly, so lightly you can barely see it in this video. Then you go in and identify clumps of hair with a color pencil. Again, you're starting off super lightly, you're just trying to get the basic idea. For this, I'm using a couple different values of brown and actually some dark purple. I choose the color pencils I'm using with more for their value, the degree of light and darkness, than I do for the actual color. Because as you're trying to determine where the light source is and where the deep shadows are, it's important to have color pencils that have deep value. And sometimes, in this case, drawing with a dark brown just doesn't work. You need those darker values of blues, purples, and magentas, depending on the color of the hair that you're drawing, to help create the deep shadow. That's why it's so important to consider where your light source is, so you know where those highlights, midtones, and deep shadows will be. Now I go through with a range of values of pencils and start blending them together. I'm considering the darker values first, and then I layer upon layer upon layer, small transitions until I have a certain amount of depth to the color. That's where the light source comes in, the lightest values. I tend to focus on the lightest values last. I may put in a little bit here or there just to get an idea, but overall, I'm saving my lightest color pencils for the very last bit. And perhaps one of the best tips I could possibly offer you is no outlines. Sure, I'm going in and I'm adding some individual hairs and some deeper shadows tucked in there, but at no place am I creating one line that outlines hair. It's really important because if you outline something, it flattens out the entire image. Now I'm demonstrating on brown wavy hair. The same technique can be applied to a variety of different hairstyles and hair textures. But it's really important to think about what you're drawing and the reference photo or the reference person that you're drawing, and try to capture and understand the light source and how you can layer colors to make their hair look as realistic as possible. You can see in some of my shadows I even added in some green, and just understanding how the color works and how you can layer that color. In the end, it won't look like a whole rainbow of different colors. It'll look like realistic hair with depth and volume to the color because it has a variety of color. Right now, I'm adding a lot of the details with my lightest color pencil. It's not white, but it's just slightly creamy, and I can add some individual strands as well to help create some individualness to the lines. That's about a half an hour of actual drawing sped up so you can see the different stages. Yeah, you can see the different colors in there, but they all tend to blend together to create a realistic view of hair. Now, you may also want to be able to draw curls, and depending on the texture of the curls, it can vary. But this is my suggestion. You still follow the same tips that I offered before. You sketch lightly, and you think about the hair in a shape of a ribbon, kind of folding down where you have the highlight on the outside, the deep shadow curved underneath. Again, you're just going to layer those colors on top of one another. I'm using some purple and brown right now to create some of the deeper shadows. Starting off lightly and not pressing too hard from the beginning is really important, because when you press hard with pencils, it creates grooves in the paper. And it's harder to get these really dynamic layers of blending with your color pencils. Now that I have all the deep shadow, I'm going in and adding some highlights with my lightest value. And of course, a few strands of hair outside. Now, that's fine for one layer, but what if you have hair all together? Well, go in and just try to apply the same technique to clumps of hair. And don't have them all too similar. Make sure you have some variation in your curls. So to review, don't forget these tips. Use a reference photo or do your research beforehand. Sketch lightly. Think of hair in clumps or groups rather than individual strands. Identify your light source. Don't create any outlines. Layer those color pencils, and don't be afraid to use different colors for darker values. And always do the lightest value last. Build up those layers, and you will have a beautiful drawing of hair.